morning and welcome to Frank's School. This is the 6-year, 96-day first video of two. I'm going to predict that there will be 2 videos today. That way I won't have to be going quite so fast. And the name of this would be Werdz 3 and plus. It's actually the 4th time that I'm showing how I've managed to harvest words, but the first one I just didn't give a number. I gotta kind of go back to basics. You know, here's a book that says Back to Basics. I hope you can see it. I've noticed that if I approach the camera too much, you can't read stuff anyway. It's another Reader's Digest book that I probably will not be able to show, but it's just as well it was given to me by my dad, 1982. Anyway, back to basics. What I mean is the basic thing that's going on here is I'm trying to demonstrate that a teaching technique that I call Werdz, it had earlier been called class vocabulary, is a very effective way to teach. But I had failed to do it online. Now I actually have some co-learning teachers, is what I think of these people as, that we're actually doing this. And I have one class of men, one class of women. And another thing, there's 2 videos that I made that I've gone back and for the time being I've made them unlisted. So if you can't see them, they're unlisted. I think there may be little mistakes that I made in there. I'm just not sure. So until I have time to sort that out, I don't really want to do anything improper or wrong. So 2 of them I made unlisted. If you follow the numbers, you might notice that. Well, okay, in the men's class, we dated it. I asked for words and they had caught on. They had words. As a matter of fact, one guy I think had 10. I don't know how. He was ready. He had a bunch of words, but they weren't being greedy about getting their word out. The ones that came, the first one was melancholy, and we wrote it down. And he had a context, a melancholy smile. And we figured out how to pronounce it, melancholy. That, for some reason, takes a little longer than I would think it would have to hear where it is stressed. So I would say, otherwise it would be melancholy, or melancholy, or melancholy. It's melancholy. It's right there. There's the stress. And I also should have everybody say it. I forgot about doing that, but I should actually have the group speak the word so they've said it once, pronounced right. Figured out it was an adjective because it's describing smile. I don't directly use noun and adjective initially. I'll say, is it naming something or is it describing something? It's just easier that way. And we figured out it meant sad. There were much bigger definition. My co-learning teacher that loves the dictionary, he just wants to read the whole thing, you know, the history of the word melancholy and all that, but we just came up with sad. Okay, we had that. Next word, correspondence. Oh, and the source of it. This is all quite automatic now. They've learned this quite fast. So we put a little 1 here, or maybe that's the 1, and it came from the Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. And it was suggested, should we say Dumas, Alexander? If you wanted to be fussy, you got to put down the copyright date, the page, publisher, all that stuff. But anyway, the source was Count of Monte Cristo, and the man had a copy of it right there. Fairly big copy, paper bound, or cloth bound. So good. And correspondence. The context was keep your correspondence light. And we listened to where's the stress, keep correspondence, and there it is. I'll say how many syllables, which one's stressed, and some of them are real good at that. Is it naming or describing? As again, they don't automatically see that, but it's naming something. It's a noun. Correspondence is something. You're going to keep it, whatever it is, light. And we came around with it meant letters. Communication. We don't copy everything out of the dictionary or something like that. We just come up with a definition so we can use it. And for a second one, well, for the footnote, I'm just going to say that it was spoken. The man heard the word spoken by somebody. That's I think all right down there. He was able to say who and all that, but you know, I want to be careful with names. All right, another word, loquacious. Loquacious, my loquacious family. And we dealt with this, how many syllables, which one's stressed. Loquacious is stressed, my loquacious family. And you know, what's it mean? It meant talkative. I didn't get all this down here. We settled on liking to use lots of words, or loquacious. I gave him the hint that it was in dialogue and monologue, that low part and stuff. Talkative, and so we dealt with that. Okay, and where did you get that word? This would be 3, and it was from 50 Shades of Grey. Now, I don't know that book. I know about the book. I don't know that book. But the man didn't remember the author offhand. But okay, then we practiced sentence individually, which is standard. You know, they're catching on to it. This is automatic. I said this is the bread and butter. This is the backbone of class I teach, words. And then we now to get the sentence, the 3 words in one sentence. That's a little harder to do, especially when you're using these big words. That they've been bringing big words, and I added to the difficulty by asking them if they could use the word like. Now they thought the word like as a verb, like I like chocolate, and I said no, like something is like another. Use the word like, and refer to somebody famous, somebody that basically everybody knows. And eventually we came up with, like Captain Jack, your loquacious conversation leaves our correspondence quite melancholy. Quite a sentence. And of course, there was more, you know, there's the dilemma of how to make it short, because time is short, and short is better anyway. Now, about the simile and the allusion, in the margin we put SI and ALLU, because right there they have both a simile and an allusion, and these are literary devices. So I'm going to go straight on and do the second video now. I'll erase the board, and I was able to do that same thing with the women's class. I was able very briefly to discuss the play The Admirable Crichton, which had been part of my intent. But you know, there wasn't a lot, and that's always kind of extra. That part didn't actually work out quite like I planned, but they understood exactly what I meant by wanting to mention that play. All right, bye for now.